Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Good evening, folks. You're listening to WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station. Today, I'm your host, John, and I'm here with Mr. Frank.
Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you back in the big seat again, John.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, and Alexis are still at their theater practice, so I'm probably going to start getting people on the show next week if they're still caught up with the theater practice.
Yeah. Very good. Well, we'll muddle through without them because there's always plenty of things to talk about in the news.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we spoke about the Mars Perseverance landing.
Oh yeah, and there's like new footage and stuff that just came out.
And people and the internet was all abuzz about the landing, and everybody wanted to see the images. So they snapped. So the rover sent some low resolution black and white images immediately so that people could just see, okay, it's on Mars. They took a forward and an aft image, which was pretty cool. Then all the video started showing up. And over the past week, the video that we've been enjoying is just, wow, just breathtaking. Color video. They actually have a video that they made of the landing from the rover's perspective, looking up at the lander, and then the lander looking down at the rover. That's one of the first stills that you would have seen this past week. You see the three bungee cord lines, and then the umbilical, which connected the power and all the communications between the two pieces of equipment, and everything worked perfectly. They even have an image after the lander, after Perseverance landed, of the lander crashing, and they've got the dust cloud. They got a picture of that too.
I did not expect that. No,
but they aimed the camera in the right direction and said, "Hey, what do we got to lose?" Right? And you got to remember, it's when they do this stuff, they have to send this information at least a day before. Everything that they do is actually sent to them way before the actual execution. So it's none of it's done in real time. So everything has to be thought about and timed out for proper timely execution.
Yeah, I mean, like the 7 minutes of terror, it's autopiloting itself.
Yeah. And it's still, even on Mars, every day it wakes up and says, "Hey, here I am, I'm awake." And then it gets its instructions. So the first few days, it was deleting all the landing information, didn't need it anymore. So that makes space on the hard drive for the daily chores list. And so that's essentially what they do. And they'll actually upload that. And then when it wakes up in the morning, it downloads those chores and starts executing those chores, and everything's time stamped. And it's just, wow.
I'm waiting for like how I believe there's like a little helicopter. I want to see how that plays out, because
I think it's called Ingenuity, the helicopter, and that won't happen for another month or so.
Yeah, I can't wait till it happens, though.
Yeah, it'll be the first autonomous vehicle on another planet like that. So very cool. And I think it may also have a microphone. I'm not sure about that, but I think it might. And but definitely it'll have video, and it will be looking at the rover at Perseverance, and Perseverance will be looking at that. So you're going to get two opposing images. That'll be fun to look on a split screen. And looking forward to that.
That'll be interesting.
Wow. Yeah. But it's near in latitude, it's near the equator.
Oh, wow.
which is supposed to be like the garden spot of Mars, and it's still like minus 80 at night.
Wow.
It's a little chilly.
Maybe a little more.
You think we've had some cool weather, huh? The folks in Texas would keep their Texas weather right now, right? With all the problems that they had.
It's not doing well for them.
No, that was awful.
And kind of like what you were talking about last week, like the pipage, I believe, is probably playing a major part in that too.
Big part of it. Now they say the problem, the real issue that created the problem, and by the way, the governing board, most of the members of the governing board that's part of that decision-making committee of how to execute the power usage throughout the entire statewide grid, because they don't have any relationship with other states to borrow power, and that's why they had to do all their work in-house. So they actually have a governing board, and 6 of those people have already resigned, and justifiably so, because just prior to this, they gave a glowing report to the state officials that everything was fine and they were prepared. So so not good. No. And a lot of the folks that are thinking, about this whole green movement, which is, in theory sounds wonderful, right? But in execution has got a lot of hiccups in it. You have to have, so now Texas is definitely saying, all right, we need to have more substantial real world backup systems that rely on reliable technology so that we don't have these kind of issues going forward. So green technology is wonderful. It's still in its infancy, and we're just not ready for it. And this is a good example why. Yeah, not good. Not good. If you took all the raw materials, I don't know if we mentioned this before, but this is a fascinating statistic. If you took all the raw materials it takes to make solar panels, right?
Right.
And used them all from planet Earth, you could not generate enough power to power California.
That's
That is a real world statistic. So when you think about that, you realize that there's just too many shortcomings with solar energy. Sounds good. There's going to have to be other breakthroughs.
Yeah.
They're going to have to use other technologies, and I'm all about it. I think it's wonderful because it helps us to kind of reinvent the wheel, if you will, and using geothermal, I think would be an excellent idea. So there's just so many really cool real world things, but it's not ready for prime time, It just isn't. In Texas is a good proof of that pudding. So anyways,
it's an interesting statistic because when you think about like countries like China, that wouldn't even spark up a single light.
Yeah, it would just maybe one province, maybe one city in one province. Yeah, no, it's just there's just not enough. I mean, especially in China. I mean, their population is what it's huge compared.
Yeah,
to,
it's a lot,
right? Yeah, it's like triple ours.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, going into our next topic of covering, Governor Kuno is under sexual harassment allegations from his former aide, Lindsay.
Yeah. Did you know what happened?
I believe she proclaimed in like 2018 that he kissed her on the lips.
Yes. She was leaving. She it
was like a one-on-one briefing, and
correct. And a one-on-one briefing, and she was leaving, and he got between her and the door and planted a kiss on her, which was totally unwanted or certainly unexpected.
Yeah.
So, whoops.
I mean, it's not looking good because I was talking to somebody that I knew, and then I was talking about like how something came up with them, and they were talking about like, oh, the retirement homes, and I was like, no, it's a different scandal now, and they're like, that's not good. It's like 2 in a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's
Right.
been kind
Well,
of,
I think,
yeah.
and he's, people are asking for his resignation,
Mm.
or perhaps even doing a recall,
Mm.
like they're doing with Gavin Newsom in California, based upon his governance and having a lot to do with the nursing home issue. This is just yet another.
It's just adding on to the fire.
Yeah, it's just another bad. And I hate anything that have to do with sexual harassment in the workplace. I mean,
Yeah.
I hate it. And I just wish people in authority would behave better, and it's to that end. During the COVID, we were told by the media in glowing reports that Andrew Cuomo was the gold standard of
But
what
now
the
it's,
this is the political rhetoric that was discussed during the pandemic, right? In the summer of last year, that what he was doing was the gold standard for the Democratic Party. So Peter Doocy from Fox News asked Miss Psaki from the White House, who is the White House spokesperson, if Andrew Cuomo was still considered to be the gold standard. So that'll be interesting to see how they're going to try to tap dance around that one.
probably redact their statement, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, can I pick another number? What's behind this other curtain? Yeah, it's a real problem for the Democrats. And we've got CPAC coming up this weekend in Orlando. And the governor will be there. Governor of Florida will be there giving a speech. Senator Scott from Florida will be there also doing a speech. And then former President Trump will be there to do a speech.
I did not know he was showing up. Okay.
Yes. He'll be the keynote speaker.
Oh.
So there'll be plenty of speakers, but I think a lot of people are showing up to hear what former President Trump, because this will be his first big public appearance, after the inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways.
He also wasn't present at that either. So,
pardon me?
He wasn't present at that either. So a little bit before, I guess.
Well, since the inauguration period time frame. Mm-hmm.
Kind of writing off of that, though, Trump's tax returns are kind of being handled now by AC Vance of the New York District Attorney.
Yes,
so it's
right. Well, they've been lobbying to get those tax records for many years.
I think ever since he stepped foot in office, or at least a year in.
I think prior to that, they've been bothering him for it. And so the federal government is turning him over to, because there's no federal crimes that have been alleged or reported at all. Zero, right? But the federal government did have access to it. And then they said that they wanted to retain those for reasons nobody could fully understand. And the state of New York sued to get that information from the federal agencies that hold that. Imagine the IRS and other federal agencies that have that information. And the Trump team sued to keep that information private, which, and apparently lost that bid. I think, give somebody who's hell bent to leather to do you damage. You give them your tax returns. What could go wrong? So this is really using the government as a political tool, and it's really inappropriate, I think.
I think at this point, he's kind of been under scrutiny for so long, it kind of built up and then built up. At this point, I'd be surprised if he doesn't get pegged with at least one thing.
Right.
Maybe 3 or more.
Jaywalking. Yeah. we caught you walking across the street the wrong way. So it's just very unfortunate when you have a government in power that because historically the government in power leaves the outgoing president alone. We did that with, there was plenty of criticisms of Bill Clinton. There were plenty of criticisms of Barack Obama and some of the sweetheart deals that have taken place when some of these presidents left office and even after they left office. So there's always, but yet, administrations just left that alone.
I kind of feel like it's tied to his image though too, because he was like, at least when he first ran for president, he was like portrayed as this businessman, like multi-billion-dollar companies and stuff.
Right.
So I think people kind of latched on the idea that something shady might be going on too, in a way.
I think that's been
at least it was portrayed.
That's correct. That's what the media wants you to believe. Yeah. And I mean, when you get people that say the same thing day in, day out, year in, year out,
just kind of becomes fact.
That becomes the mindset. Never mind that there's no facts to back it up. But this is just, it's unfortunate. Anyways, yeah. So we got that going on. And then Liz Cheney faces a new outrage after anti-Trump comments before CPAC. So apparently she made a speech before CPAC. And of course, the Cheney family and the Trump family have never, been bosom buddies. So, he's probably said unkind things about Dick Cheney and likely may have said some unkind things about Liz. And she's supporting her dad, and his legacy, and I get that. And again, I think that some of that intramural squabbling, I think it's regrettable. It's just unnecessary. And I think it's okay to have dissenting voices, even within your party. It's okay.
Yeah. And if you want to join in on this conversation, make sure to call at 220-9788 or WSTU-9788. Now, Mr. Frank, I kind of want to delve into more philosophical idea. Almost.
You got 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
How
then
much
I'll
philosophy? All right. Well, it's all right.
No.
We can tease it, but go ahead. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So what is greed to you?
Greed?
Yes. Because personally, I feel like there's two types. Like there's materialistic and then there's emotional greed.
Oh, okay. Explain both.
Okay. For materialistic, it's like money, paper, house, whatever.
Emotional, personal advancement.
Like emotional, I feel like it's more so what you crave and such. Like, how do you portray those? Like, how do you portray greed in your own aspect? Because I feel like it's portrayed negatively, but it which makes sense, but I also feel like it's good.
Yeah, greed actually can be a positive motivator. If you want to acquire wealth, you want to do more for yourself. There are all the tools in the toolbox of doing better in society are available to you. All you have to do is study and read it and learn it and execute it, and you can gain substantial wealth if you do all the right things, right? And there's a certain greed factor to that, but then there could be a benefactor of your family could be the beneficiary of that. So you can say, okay, I want to create a better life for my family, my extended family. And, so I think on a certain level, greed can, if properly managed, like all things, it could be a very good tool. And then it could be very bad too.
Okay.
That's I did that in 3 minutes. So not too bad.
Not too bad indeed.
Yeah. So that's an interesting. Every week, I know you've got some philosophical stuff.
No, I just think about it sometimes because, over the week, you just think about random things. Because I was thinking about not so materialistic, but more emotional greed. Like what makes a human want this, or kind of like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like fake it till you make it fits the statement in Bill kind of directly. If you fake it till you make it, it basically just becomes solid. Just like certain actions, you like hold a pen a certain way or something, kind of like that, but same thing with emotions. So I was like kind of reflecting on that earlier this week, just like seeing why I act this way or such based like on emotional.
Well, okay. Well, we all want to be accepted in society, right?
I just find it an interesting topic as well.
Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. So interesting. Yeah. Well, you're a deep thinker. That's good stuff.
You find things by yourself you don't realize.
Yeah. Well, you have to explore, thoughts and ideas, and it's good to kind of bounce off those ideas. And speaking of thoughts and ideas, before we go to break, we should tell our listeners about Youth in Government that you're a part of through South Fork High School.
No, Alexis are actually a part of it too.
Right.
Youth in Government is a student-led and student-run organization that's kind of a mock government of the U.S. government. We have a full-on legislative, executive, and judicial branch, each doing what exactly each one does, creating bills, passing laws, rejecting laws, and even doing mock trials and cases. It's actually a pretty fun program.
Yes. And hopefully they'll be able to go up to Tallahassee yet this spring. Maybe.
I think it's online, actually.
It's going to be all done online
I think it's
this
online.
year. Aw, how sad. Yeah.
Actually hoping for it too.
Right, because it'd be able to be in the judicial chambers. But you'll be, what year are you at South Fork?
Oh, I'm a 10th grader.
You're 10th grade. So you still have an opportunity between now and your senior year. You could probably get up there. So
hopefully.
Yeah. Well, that'll be great.
It's been a year in since the pandemic.
Right. Wow. Very cool indeed. All right. We're going to take this as our moment to take a regulation timeout. We'll be right back after these messages. But if you would like to speak with John or I, and you have something you want to share with us, give us a call here at 220-9788. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. You're listening to WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station.
Righto. Yes. And Grover Norquist says that Biden's tax hike plans are moving in the wrong direction, according to Newsmax sources. And let's see now. It's just interesting things going on in today's world. But so a lot of economic, and of course, the stock market took a tumble today. Yeah.
I believe there was another GameStop thing again, actually.
Oh,
too.
was there?
I think there was. It was something along the lines of that.
Wow.
It's interesting.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's still some fallout from that other thing. What was it they were buying?
AMC?
It was, and GameStop, right?
It was AMC, GameStop, and I believe there's like a couple others too.
Yeah. Wow.
Surprising.
It's a crazy world. Let's see.
Still baffles me of how that came to be.
Well, the internet helps.
I know, but I'm just like the idea of just a group of people just go online and just be like, hey, let's just buy all the stock.
Reddit. It was just through Reddit, right?
Yeah. I was just like, out of all places, it's Reddit. Wasn't on Discord, wasn't on anywhere else but Reddit.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, going into like more like subculture, Van Gogh's actually going on sale, and it's like the first time in about 100 years that's actually been viewed by the public. So it's pretty cool. The painting's name is called Paris.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's like a farmhouse cityscape, and neat. He was studying his brother. Kind of set him up so that he could paint, and gave him money and stuff so that he could, concentrate on his painting. I always found his painting work to be kind of interesting. He's one of the very first artists that recognized that light changes from moment to moment on the piece that you were. So generally, artists would prop up their easel in front of whatever it is that they're painting, right? Yeah. Well, that's why if you look at his paintings, they look like they're a little bit frantically applied. And it's because he was trying to capture those moments, like a snapshot in paint, if you will, of what the colors looked like at that very moment. So that, to me, is just a fascinating observation that really nobody of note, really, recognized and or discussed or tried to apply. They may have understood it in some sort of tacit manner, but never really in an applied manner, And so he was, I think, the first artist to really kind of reach for that, to create the first Polaroid painting, because his if you really look at his brushstrokes, he was in a hurry.
Yeah.
And then he would go back, probably and fill it in, but he would try to get as much as he could at those brief moments when the color and the light was just right that he wanted to create.
Interesting.
Yes, I recommend the book that that was written about him. I read it when I was in college, and it's called Lust for Life, and it's a very, very good book.
Is it like a biography about him?
It's a story about his life, and talks about all the ups and downs and his loves and his disappointments. And he had many disappointments. He was anything but successful in life. His success really came after he passed, and which is not unusual for artists, So he had a tortured existence, He saw the world through different eyes, and so that's why I'm always very respectful for people that I don't agree with, But I appreciate, because they still have something to add. They always have some insight, or that they can we can all learn from, whether we agree with them or their approach or not, you know. So it's all good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki Haley is suggesting that President Biden should boycott the upcoming Winter Olympics in China.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's being held in China.
Yes.
I didn't hear about that.
Yes.
Did it change locations? I thought it was Japan at first, right? Wait, no, that was different.
No, I don't know. I think it was always scheduled to be in China. This particular one.
Okay.
I don't know.
Be
I'm kind of
interesting
lose
to see
track
how
of that.
it's.
Yeah. Well, I know a few years ago it was exciting because they had the Olympics. They had golf for the first time in 100 years.
Really?
They played golf down in South America. And that was like a big deal. And the big question was whether or not the golf course would even be ready in time, because they didn't have a golf course in that part of the world prior to the Olympics. Now, whether that golf course is still there or not, or still a functioning golf course, I don't know. But they did pull it off. They did have a pretty fair golf course established just before the Summer Olympics. And 4 years ago, God, it was 4 years ago, I guess, or more.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe 8 years ago. I don't know. I lose track. Wow.
I forgot how the
That's
schedule
Florida
actually
time.
went.
Well, the Olympics take place every 4 years.
I thought there was like an alternate schedule. It was like
The
summer
Winter
and
Olympics. There's the Winter Olympics.
Okay. Then was it every 2 years? It's summer.
Well, the
It's-
Summer
it's
Olympics
something
is
like
every
that.
4 years. Yeah, yeah. So, but how they sprinkle in the Winter Olympics, I'm not too sure about that. So, what do you like about the Winter Olympics? Do you like the downhill, the downhill, the slalom, and all
I
that
love
stuff?
those.
Yeah,
Oh, just it looks so cool.
right.
It's the one where it's the sled, right? Are you talking about that?
the sled.
Yeah.
Okay, the sled is that's
I love that.
Right? Yeah, that's when you get a whole team of people,
Mhm.
and talk about teamwork, because
Like if you see them, it's like
they're
split
working.
second.
They're not just sitting there. They're not passive. They are actively involved in the movement of that sled through all the various aspects of the course. And yeah, I mean, it's wow. And they're moving at breakneck speed.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty exciting. That's fun to watch, that part.
Other than that,
That's got to be,
yeah.
they got to be doing that in northern China, right? I would imagine. I don't know where.
I guess
Probably
so.
close to Wuhan. That'll be fun.
Uh,
Sure. What could
maybe,
go wrong? Oh my God.
other
Yeah.
than that, probably like skiing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the skiing is always pretty cool. Like
Mm-hmm.
you see, like snowboarding and such, you see their kind of tricks,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm like, how is that humanly possible?
Right.
Like the other day, just like even on the water, I was like looking at somebody, they were like kite surfing, and then they went up like 20 feet in the air, and they took off their what is it? They took off their board and started doing tricks with it, then put it back on and landed. I'm like, I don't understand.
Wow. That's somebody that's got some skills.
Yeah. And then
Wow.
that day we kind of went around to other beaches, and then there was like 6 other of them at another beach, and I'm like, I have mad respect for y'all, but they were out there for like a pure hour, and I'm like, wow.
Cool. Cool. Well, the weather's been beautiful.
Oh no, there was white caps and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what ideal for that sort of thing, right?
Oh no, I mean not like 1 or 2. There was like hundreds. Like every single wave was
Yeah.
a white cap, and
It
I'm
was-
like, this is
A little too choppy. Yeah. 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 No, I get a little green in the gills myself when the water gets a little rough.
and they were like creating their own little waves. And I'm like, oh my god.
Yikes. Switching back to politics, AOC criticized the NYPD's new robot dog.
I haven't heard about that actually.
Yeah, so we should open that up. That could be fun. That's according to Fox
I
News.
believe there's like something attached to it, or there was something like that.
Yeah. So what does a robot dog do? Robotic surveillance ground drones are being deployed for testing in low-income communities of color. Democrat firebrand Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat New York, claimed that the New York City Police Department's NYPD new robot dog is being deployed for testing on low-income communities of color with under-resourced schools.
That's oddly specific.
Shout out to everyone who fought against community advocates who demanded these resources to go investments like school and counseling. Instead, the Congresswoman wrote on Twitter, linking to a story about RoboDog. So, RoboDog. I love it. Oh, there's a picture of it. How cool. It's painted blue.
Oh, it's that one.
Yeah, that's that from Boston Dynamics.
Yeah, I was like, that looks like the one from Boston Dynamics.
It is. It's the very same one. And it's a Chinese company that owns Boston Dynamics, by the way. It's not even domestically held.
Well then.
Isn't that wild? But the architectural the robotic device itself is just stunningly amazing. And they're thinking about gearing it up for military use. They could backpack it and it would go out with soldiers and carry heavy gear and stuff like that.
That'd be interesting,
right? And it'll be able to walk on uneven terrain and stuff like that.
That would be interesting.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting things, and I know Elon Musk owns one of those. I think he calls it Spot. And he uses it at SpaceX whenever there's like something going on. They don't want to send people in because of the fumes from they'll send in their robo dog to kind of survey the situation with the camera. And so they know what's going on. It'll probably have instruments on it too, so they can test for, air breathing anomalies, so they don't have to breathe anything bad, So it's pretty good. So, yeah, that's pretty wild stuff.
RoboDog.
RoboDog. Yeah. Oh, yeah. AOC supports defund the police demands in wake of George Floyd's death. Please ask yourself when the last time you saw the next generation world-class technology for education, healthcare, housing, etc., consistently prioritized for underserved communities like this, she added in a second tweet. So there we go. And with that, we are going to take our next break. But we'll remind you again, you can give us a call here at the studio line, 220-9788. And if I'm paying attention, I will see the green blinking light. Otherwise, I will miss your call. And if I have missed your call, please call back because I got to be watching the phone. And if I'm reading the news or talking to John, I might miss your green blinking light. So please call back if you have already called. And with that, we'll return shortly.
to WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station.
Righto.
And yeah, we're back from our
We are
break.
back. We are back. We thank you for listening and talking about things that are people behave one way and then they behave another. Same bit of information, but depending upon whose team you're on, you take that information differently, right?
Mhm. Your own spin.
Yes, a spin. It's referred to as that. Is referred to as other things,
You
but
also spin.
spin. So CNN is under fire for different framing of the Cuomo Kavanaugh scandals.
Were they supporting or?
Well, they jumped all over Kavanaugh, and they said you must believe the woman, no matter what. She is right, you are wrong, and that's all there is to it. Even though there is no proof to validate what the person is saying. So that was the stand, that was the narrative from CNN, right? Now they say, well, now it's not necessarily for Cuomo. It's maybe, they waited 24 hours before they would even bring up the case. Other news outlets already brought up the case. CNN waited 24 hours before they broke the story. So that was interesting in and of itself, and it really didn't fit the same narrative that they gave to Kavanaugh. So it's just kind of interesting.
Well, different framing for sure.
See now, Main Street on the White House, and Pat Psaki talking about former aide to Governor Cuomo and his sexual harassment accusation, or her accusation against him. Leading liberal women respond when asked to comment on harassment of allegations against Cuomo. New York papers ramp up their pressure on Governor Cuomo as woes pile up for the embattled Democrat, and the mainstream media blasted for blatant hypocrisy. That's the word I was looking for, as opposed to spin, because hypocrisy is when you treat to the same situation entirely different, depending upon what color jersey you're wearing, right? So I guess what team you're on. Mainstream media blasted for hypocrisy after ignoring the sexual harassment allegations against the governor. Janice Dean says way more Democrats must speak out against the governor. She's the one who broke the story against him. She is the Fox News meteorologist whose in-laws died as a result of the governor's orders. And so she's taken it quite personal. She, her and her family are looking for answers how her seemingly healthy father-in-law, mother-in-law died. What happened? And they couldn't get any answers. Then they started doing the digging. That's when they started uncovering. Now everybody else in government has substantiated what she had uncovered, is that the governor had ordered to send COVID positive patients from the hospitals back to nursing homes, and not necessarily
Specify.
and not inform the nursing homes who was positive or not either. They were not allowed to test or question, and they were not allowed to refuse people. They under state order, they had to accept them, and when they accepted them, they took the rest of the population that was at risk, and that's how her in-laws passed. So it's quite a personal story for her, and with justification, So, anyways, and so, and it was very difficult for her to, because that's not what she just wants to do the weather, But this is something that she saw was egregious, terribly wrong. And when they asked the representatives for the governor's administration for answers, they just got stonewalled. They didn't get the answers. So that's when okay, let's roll up our sleeves. Let's do some digging. And so the rest is developing history, as they say.
Indeed it is.
Yes, indeed. Teachers speak out about frustrations with unions slow walking the school reopenings. That's kind of an interesting. We touched on that last week about the science is that it is safe to go back to school, and yet many schools, the Catholic schools, for example, have been open through the pandemic with great success, no issues, and this is throughout the country. This is not limited. So there's science to support. So during the pandemic, they said follow the science, and so we're following the science, and the science says it's perfectly safe to open the schools and let students work and socialize in school. There's absolutely little or no downside at all to that. And yet the teachers union says, well, we all want to have the teachers. Now, this is like in the Chicago district. They want to have the teachers all vaccinated before they can go back to school. So they did. They went ahead and got them all vaccinated, or they started the process. And they said they wanted to negotiate getting those schools open because the parents are screaming. They want to get their kids back in school. Student mental illnesses have gone up dramatically.
Yes.
But many other issues have, touched their family lives in a very negative way. And teenage suicides have gone up. It's not a pretty picture socially. For most of the country, it's been a real problem, especially the blue states that are really hard locked down. And so it's interesting when they say follow the science, and the science says, the CDC says it's perfectly fine to open the schools, and the teachers union says, yeah, not so much. We don't really want to go back. So they said then they got them vaccinated, and they said, well, not so much. We really still don't. So like, what do you're vaccinated? The flu vaccine. Did you know that the annual flu vaccine is only 35% effective?
Oh, it's prediction.
Right. Well, it's right. It's like a shot in the barrel.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the flu vaccine, but people take it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's a newer vaccine too. Like they had time to build on it, but this is kind of like the ones we have approved right now are kind of newer though.
Yes.
So I feel like that's part of it too.
Yes. Well, and they think that this new technology might lead towards a cure for cancer.
Yeah.
Have you heard that too?
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Wow. We could talk about that again next week.
We could.
All right. Well, thank you very much, John. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for listening. Yeah. And we'll be back next week right here on Treasure Coast Forum. Thanks again.